Here's a clip from the Exodus podcast with John Eberhart on postseason scouting, what to look for right now to find more success in October. It is a fantastic tactic. I hope you guys enjoy this and implement it this upcoming season. Here we go. So, I think that's that brings up a point right now. If someone's thinking, well, I want to have some more opportunities during the lull or during the early part of October, most of the country is on a bean and corn rotation. So if you can find some spots that will likely be corn next year, mark that down and scout it. So let's break down. Someone goes and they're looking for a field that's going to be corn next year, and what does some of those setups look like to where's the wind going? Where are you located? Can you break that down a little bit more?
I don't pay attention to wind. So yeah. Wind is irrelevant to me.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So what I'm doing is when I'm out there doing my postseason scouting and I'm walking along any type of a field edge, if there's good transition security cover on the timber side, there's good security cover where a buck will physically come through that, or a buck coming out of the corn will feel comfortable coming to the edge of the corn because he's got security cover on the timber side as well. That's the type of spot I would rattle. Let's say I was walking in and I was scouting and I knew this field was going to be in standing corn, and here's this nice tree, nice huntable tree, but on the timber side, let's say there's a 40 or 50 yard opening of weeds, short weeds or something, till it gets down into a swamp or decent security cover timber. I'm not going to set that up because the odds of a big buck stepping out of the standing corn and being vulnerable with that big open area to that one side in a heavily pressured area is pretty low. So I'm looking for a tree that's going to have some good security cover around it. So when a buck does come out of the standing corn, he will feel comfortable coming to its edge because there's more security cover beyond the edge of that standing corn.
That makes sense. No, that makes perfect sense. And I think that's a good illustration. I can picture some spots.
And one more thing, let me throw in on that, is if this is really important. If I'm scouting the edge of crop fields and because it's very common when you're scouting the edge of crop fields during full season to see scrapes that were there the previous fall. Mm-hmm. And so if there's a scrape area where there's 2 or 3 scrapes in a short zone, a small zone, and there's a tree there within shooting distance to the scrapes, and there is adequate security cover on the timber side, that's going to be the spot I set up on, because those scrapes are there for a reason. They're there because that's probably a spot where does are transitioning from timber to corn, even if it's picked after the cornfield's picked. So those scrapes are there because that's a transition zone into the crop field or from the crop field back into the timber where they may bed during the daytime once the corn is down. So there's a reason those scrapes are there. So that's going to add a little bit of positivity to that location.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up because I think that really narrows it down for someone to listen to this right now and go find those spots right now as season's over in a lot of states. And something that from the conversations that I've had and some of the information I've covered with you in the past is postseason scouting would you say it's paramount to success for the following year?
I think postseason scouting is probably one of the most important aspects of bow hunting in a pressured area. Mm-hmm. When you're in managed properties, you can get away with a lot because deer are allowed to grow to 3 or 4.5 years old before they ever have any negative consequences with human activity. So, you can get away with a lot of things in managed areas. But when you're hunting in a pressured area where just about every hunter, and there's lots of them, are targeting any legal antlered buck, those mature bucks, when they get 3.5 years old, they're really, really smart. So for you to go in and do your scouting during preseason, and you're leaving your human odor more than likely, you're making an intrusion presence, you're just cluing them off that deer season's coming. They've been through this before, and you're just setting them up to become nocturnal prior to the season even opening by doing preseason scouting in those types of areas.
When you go find a spot, let's say you're postseason scouting now and you're looking for this type of setup, you're going in and you're actually prepping a lot of these trees, right?
Yeah, typically what I'll do is I'll do all my postseason scouting, and then I'll note places of interest. And then once I scout a particular piece of property, public or private, which I haven't hunted a new piece of private in 20 years, so it's primarily on public. Once I have those locations that I think I want to set up marked, if I don't have any other place to go scout, yeah, I'll begin setting those up. But if I have like 3 or 4 pieces of public land that I want to scout, what I'll typically do is I'll scout all of those first. I want to get all my scouting done before green up starts, which is typically in Michigan around the end of April. And then once I get everything scouted, it got my locations marked that I want to prep. Then I've got, May and June to go in and physically prep the locations. And the sooner you can get them prepped, the better. And when I say prepping on public land, you do whatever you can. You go in and you mark, whether it be on Onyx or with trail markers, you mark your entry and exit routes. You move brush out of runways. You make shooting lanes the best that you can, so that when you do come back and hunt them during season, there's not much effort in just getting in there and hunting.
Yeah, it makes that first sit truly a first sit versus going in and booking it up.